The jungle of Virell IX did not welcome visitors. It breathed, alive, ancient, and watching. The Galactic Scouts knew this, yet their mission brief called it a routine planetary survey. To them, the humid air and tangled canopy were little more than an inconvenience. To the jungle, they were intruders. Lieutenant Mara Voss led the 5-member unit through the Emerald Maze, her armor glinting faintly under filtered sunlight. The team's laughter echoed, uneasy but bold. They had been trained to conquer environments far harsher than this. Their exosuits adjusted to temperature. Their weapons hummed with precision. Humans used to get lost in places like this, joked Sergeant Kellendray, brushing aside a cluster of vines with the barrel of his plasma rifle. Can you imagine? Lost in a forest. Private Juno Tao, the youngest of them, chuckled nervously. Primitive planet, primitive fears. He tapped his visor, scanning for energy signatures. No life forms above, microfauna. Guess the stories about this place are just that, stories. Mara didn't respond. She had read the Colonial Archive entries. Vanished expeditions, static-choked transmissions, heat signatures that moved like ghosts. But silence had followed each disappearance, and no one had ever confirmed what dwelled beneath the canopy. Still, orders were orders: survey, extract data, and move on. Hours passed. The forest seemed endless, roots like serpents coiling around their boots. When the sunlight dimmed, they made camp beneath a colossal tree trunk that soared like a living tower. Its bark shimmered faintly with bioluminescence, the glow pulsating like a heartbeat. Kellen poked it with the tip of his boot. Maybe it's sentient. Maybe it doesn't like us camping here. Don't start, Mara muttered, checking her wrist display. We finish our mapping at dawn. No distractions. But distractions came anyway. It started with the sounds, soft rustles where no wind moved. Then came the whispers, faint and rhythmic, threading through the foliage. Juno froze mid-motion. You hear that? Corporal Wren shifted uneasily, his motion tracker flickering. Could be local fauna. Or an echo, Kellen added. These forests can mess with acoustics. The sound came again, closer this time, unmistakably deliberate. It was like someone breathing just beyond sight. Mara raised her hand. Form up. Lights low. Their visors switched to night mode, bathing the jungle in ghostly hues. Between two towering roots, a shape moved, fluid, almost human. The team's rifles rose in unison, targeting the silhouette. Identify yourself, Mara called out. No answer, only the faint creak of a bowstring. A split second later, Kellen's rifle was struck from his grip, the weapon sparking violently as an actual arrow, pierced its casing. The team ducked for cover, scanning wildly. Who the hell uses projectiles? Wren hissed. Juno's voice trembled. That came from behind us. Another arrow struck, grazing Mara's shoulder armor. She gritted her teeth, aiming into the shadows. But there was nothing, only trees, vines, and the heavy presence of being watched. Thermal scan now, she ordered. Juno obeyed. The display lit up in crimson. One heat signature. Stationary. Above them. They looked up. High among the branches stood a figure draped in green and brown, blending perfectly into the canopy. The hood obscured any face, and the longbow in its hands seemed carved from the forest itself. It spoke in a voice that echoed through the leaves, calm, ancient, final. None of you leave. Silence fell. Even the jungle seemed to hold its breath. For the first time since landing, Mara felt fear, not the tactical kind that sharpened reflexes, but something deeper, primal. The jungle wasn't a place. It was an entity, and it had sent a guardian. Her team exchanged glances, uncertain whether to fight or flee. But in the stillness of Virell IX, it was clear running would not save them. The air was heavy with tension, as if the forest itself waited to see what the intruders would do next. The figure remained motionless above them, a shadow shaped like a man but older, wilder, and patient as the roots beneath their boots. Mara steadied her breath, forcing her voice into command mode. Weapons down, she ordered quietly. We don't know what we're dealing with. Her team hesitated, confusion flickering across their faces. Galactic Scouts were not trained to lower weapons before unknown entities. But there was something in the stillness, an authority that made defiance feel absurd. The figure leapt from the branch with silent grace, landing lightly on the damp ground. The sound of his arrival was a whisper, not a thud. Up close, his garb looked woven from moss, bark, and shadow. His bow was strung with a cord that shimmered faintly, as though alive. He stood a few paces away, and though his face remained hidden within the hood, they all felt his gaze. "What are you?" Kellen demanded, his tone wavering between bravado and fear. The figure tilted his head. "What are you?" he replied, his voice low but resonant, carrying an accent that didn't belong to any known species. "You trespass upon the breath of this world." Ren clenched his jaw. "We're explorers, authorized by the Galactic Science Directorate." "Explorers," the hooded one echoed, almost tasting the word. "You cut, burn, and measure until nothing lives to tell what was lost." Juno stepped forward, trying to sound diplomatic. "We mean no harm. We're here to study the ecosystem. That's all." The figure moved closer. Juno froze. The air around the stranger felt charged, humming faintly like static before a storm. "Study," the voice murmured. "That word has killed more than war." Mara lowered her weapon fully. Her instinct screamed against it, but her mind measured the odds. Every sign indicated this being was no primitive hunter. The arrows had pierced advanced composite alloy. That required strength or something more. "We don't want conflict," she said. "If this is your territory, we'll withdraw." The hooded head turned slightly toward her. "There is no leaving," he said simply. "Those who enter the living forest owe it a debt. Blood or purpose must pay." Kellen muttered under his breath, "Great, it talks like a Cull hologram." But before Mara could silence him, the hunter raised his hand. Roots erupted from the ground, coiling around Kellen's ankles like snakes. He shouted, firing instinctively, the plasma bolt dissolving harmlessly into a veil of mist. The vines tightened, dragging him to his knees. "Enough," Mara shouted, raising her hands. "Stop. You're killing him." The hunter hesitated, then released a soft click of his tongue. The roots loosened, retreating into the earth. Kellen gasped, scrambling back. The figure spoke again, quieter now. "I'm not your enemy. I am a forest's answer." He gestured toward the towering trees. "These are not wood and leaf. They are memory. You have come to take, but you will stay to understand." Ren scanned the surroundings nervously. "You want us to what?" "Worship your trees." The hunter ignored him. His gaze, unseen but palpable, rested on Mara. "You lead them. You decide what happens next." Mara's heart pounded. She was trained to deal with hostile species, ambushes, even psychic entities, but not this. The jungle pulsed around them, every sound alive, aware. "If we do as you ask," she said carefully, "you'll let my team live?" The hunter's reply came like wind through leaves. "Live? That depends on what you learn." The forest deepened into silence again. The alien dusk thickened, the bioluminescent bark pulsing in rhythm with their heartbeats. Mara glanced at her team. Fear, anger, disbelief. The mission had become something else entirely. They were no longer explorers. They were captives of an ancient will. Somewhere beyond the trees, something vast stirred, shifting the air. The hunter turned his hood slightly, as if listening. "The forest is aware of you now," he said. "Do not run. It dislikes the chase." The night that followed felt endless. Their campfire flickered weakly, its light swallowed by the towering roots that curved like ribs around them. The hunter sat a short distance away, motionless except for the steady rhythm of his breathing. He did not eat, drink, or sleep. He merely watched. Every so often, the forest seemed to shift in response to him. Leaves trembling without wind, vines coiling closer, the air humming faintly with unseen energy. No one dared speak until Mara broke the silence. "We need to understand what he wants," she whispered. "Panic won't help." Kellen snorted softly. "He wants us dead, Commander. That's pretty clear." Ren shook his head. "If he wanted us dead, we wouldn't be breathing. Whatever this is, it's deliberate. Juno stared at the hunter's silhouette. He said, "We owe the forest a debt. Maybe it's not about us. Maybe it's about what we represent." Mara absorbed his words. The Galactic Directorate rarely considered the ethics of exploration. Every planet was a resource to be cataloged. But here, the balance of power was inverted. They were the specimens. She turned her attention to the hunter. "Why do you guard this place?" she asked. The hooded figure did not move, yet his voice came clearly through the darkness. "Because someone must." When the stars came, they brought hunger disguised as knowledge. You burn to understand, and in doing so, you consume. Mara's voice softened. "You speak as though you've seen it before." "I have," he replied. "Worlds once green are now ash. The forest remembers all that has been taken. I am its memory given form." Kellen muttered under his breath. More riddles. The hunter's head turned sharply. "You mock what you cannot grasp. The roots beneath you have drunk the blood of those who thought the same." An uneasy silence followed. Juno swallowed hard. If the forest remembers, can it forgive? For the first time, the hunter's tone shifted, no longer threatening, but contemplative. "Forgiveness is not mine to give, but understanding can delay the forest's judgment." He rose fluidly, motioning for them to follow. "Come." They hesitated, but Mara nodded. "Stay close." The hunter led them through the dense undergrowth, each step guided as if the forest itself parted for him. Strange lights drifted among the trees, luminescent spores that pulsed like living embers. As they moved, the jungle began to hum, a deep, resonant vibration that settled into their bones. They emerged into a clearing dominated by a colossal tree unlike any they had seen. Its trunk was wide enough to hold a city, its surface carved with shifting patterns of light. The air around it shimmered faintly, and the sound of a heartbeat echoed within the roots. "This is the core," the hunter said. "Every forest has one. It is the nexus of memory, the vessel of all that grows and decays. You will see what it remembers." Before anyone could react, the tree's surface rippled, and images formed, ghostly projections of figures in explorer suits, not unlike their own. The holographic echoes showed fire, extraction drills, and a forest burning. The figures screamed as vines erupted from the ground, dragging them into darkness. Kellen stumbled back. "Those were scouts from the first mission." "Yes," said the hunter. "They came laughing at humans who once feared the wild. They left nothing but ruin. So the forest made sure they would never leave." Mara watched in silence, her expression tightening with realization. The Directorate's archives had erased this truth. The jungle had not killed indiscriminately. It had defended itself. The vision faded, leaving only the sound of the forest breathing around them. Mara looked up at the hunter. "You brought us here to show us this." "What?" "So you may decide whether to repeat it," he answered. Something in his tone made her heart sink. The choice ahead was not about survival. It was about whether they deserved it. The clearing seemed to throb with a quiet, terrible life. Every breath felt heavy, as if the air itself demanded reverence. The team stood before the core, its immense trunk alive with flickering light, the pulse of something ancient and aware. The hunter remained still beside it, an extension of the forest's will. Mara's mind raced with possibilities. Negotiation, retreat, defiance. But every option seemed fragile, absurd. Nothing in her training had prepared her for judgment delivered by a living world. "What happens now?" Juno asked softly. His voice trembled, a mixture of awe and fear. The hunter's reply was measured, almost solemn. "Now, you face what you have carried with you. The forest will see you as you are." Before Mara could speak, the ground beneath them shifted. Vines slithered from the soil, forming a circle around the group. They pulsed faintly like veins. The light from the core brightened until it filled their vision. Images burst into being, each scout confronted by a vision drawn from their own memories. Kellen stood frozen as holographic flames surrounded him, scenes of his past missions replaying. Colonies raised in the name of expansion, ecosystems erased for minerals. He shouted and swung his rifle, but it passed through the images like smoke. I followed orders, he yelled into the void. Ren's vision was quieter, more insidious. He saw himself cataloging species, dissecting creatures that had begged with intelligent eyes. The Corps' whisper filled his head. Understanding is not ownership. Ren dropped to his knees, hands trembling. Juno's illusion was of a barren field, his homeworld after a failed terraforming project. He had once believed science could mend everything. Now the forest showed him what mending looked like when the wound was alive. Tears streaked his face as he whispered, "We didn't mean to destroy." Mara stood apart, untouched, or so she thought. The Corps' light enveloped her, and she saw herself in countless reflections. Leader, soldier, colonizer, survivor. Her voice in mission logs, promising exploration for the good of the Directorate. She saw the trail of forgotten planets left in their wake, each one silenced by progress. The vision faded, leaving her standing in the clearing once more, hollowed by understanding. The hunter's voice broke the silence. The forest has seen your truths. It does not hate you. It simply knows what you are. Mara lifted her gaze, steady but tired. Then let us go. We've seen what we came to deny. The hunter studied her for a long moment. To leave is not to escape. Those who walk out must carry the forest within them. Speak its truth, or it will find you again. Kellen, pale and shaken, muttered, "You think we'll preach your myth to the Directorate? They'll burn this place before they listen." The hunter turned toward him, and for the first time, the hood shifted just enough for a glimpse of what lay beneath. Eyes like amber sap, glowing with ancient grief. Then the forest will burn them first. A deep rumble spread through the ground, the trees vibrating like instruments struck by an unseen hand. The air shimmered, and the vines uncoiled from around their boots. The hunter stepped back. "You are free to leave," he said, "but the forest remembers your scent." Mara motioned for her team to move. None argued. They walked through the trees in silence, guided by a faint bioluminescent trail. As they reached the edge of the jungle, the canopy parted just enough to reveal the dim sky. The shuttle still waited, coated in a thin layer of pollen. Before boarding, Mara looked back once more. The forest loomed vast and endless, and somewhere within, the hunter watched. She felt the weight of his warning pressing on her chest. When the engines roared to life, the jungle did not stir. It merely listened. Mara knew the Directorate would never believe them. But the moment she closed her eyes, she saw the core again, its pulse now beating in rhythm with her own. The forest had marked them. None of them had truly left.